Hi, Julie.
Hi,
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. Can you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Julie Lawrence. I'm based out of Halifax. I have a background in marketing and communications, and then I kind of transitioned from that realm into journalism. So I'm kind of a mixed bag. I call myself a Jules of all trades. And yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of a digital magazine called DEFY, which is kind of a feminist magazine for professional women that kind of tackles misogyny in the workplace, validates some of the collective anger I think we all feel in that realm, and then basically gives like tips from experts on how to kind of conquer some of that.
Amazing. I have seen the magazine. It's fantastic,
Awesome.
by the way.
I'm
And
just furiously working to get the second issue ready for next week. So pretty
excellent.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And Halifax, wonderful. I'm from Nova Scotia too, so
You are.
I am originally, yes.
Oh,
What part? I am from the Valley, actually.
gotcha.
Yeah, the Annapolis Valley. Anyway, can you tell us one achievement you're very proud of?
I mean, obviously, this magazine.
Yeah.
Is my kind of. I always like think about. I heard this really good
Mhm.
like HR coach basically talking about how your whole career should be looked at, and she calls it stomping your perimeter, right? So you spend your kind of your 20s stomping your perimeter, learning all sorts of different stuff, and you might not be exactly where you're supposed to be, but you're going to use all of those tools, all of those skills that you collected along the way to kind of help you when you get to like where you're supposed to be. Defy was basically an idea that I had because I was working for a health and wellness magazine. I was the editor of a health and wellness magazine for women run by men. And
Oh,
so I kind of saw firsthand what goes into kind of deciding the content, and basically a bunch of men deciding what women should think and feel and be interested in. And I was like, this is really messed up, right? And a
yeah.
lot of the time, like my opinions, even though I had all this experience, I had, 10, 15 years in marketing and communications. I'm a journalist. I am a woman. But even still, like it didn't seem like my opinions mattered nearly as much as like the next guy they would ask. So I was like, if this is happening at this one like Canadian magazine for women, like this must be like kind of like a little microcosm for all of the like companies that are targeting women, right? It's a bunch of men deciding what we should think and feel and care about. So basically, I went from that and I was like, wouldn't it be great if there was a magazine that was for women, run by women, that actually tackles the issues that kind of mature, educated, professional women care about, and tackles things that validates them and gives them kind of like best practices for how to deal with things like being interrupted or having your opinion not matter or not given the space to even have an opinion. So basically, I pulled together this kind of group of experts to be my kind of my advisory board, so that we're making sure that everything that we recommend is backed up by kind of the best of the best in each of their fields. So I mean, that's a long-winded way of saying that this is kind of like I've stamped my perimeter, and I feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I use all of that stuff, both the skill set and the experience, right? It's kind of all culminated in this project, and I feel like exactly where I'm supposed to be. And after the first issue dropped, it's just like the feedback has been so overwhelming. Like this is really resonating with women. And I get these like just amazing emails that are like, I really heard my story and yours, and like, thank you so much for doing this. And that kind of makes it all worthwhile. And you really feel like you're kind of putting something positive into the world instead of being part of the machine that like is kind of for destruction, which is what I was doing both in advertising, but also working for like a women's magazine that didn't have the best interest of women at heart.
Yeah, I think so. It's sad that so many women experience that, and
Yeah.
that's our story, right? I came from corporate, and
Yeah.
here I am. So yeah.
And I think a lot of women, especially the ones that, both in my advisory board, but I talk to so many women that the way that they're feeling most fulfilled is like stepping outside of the patriarchy completely and like doing their own thing, right? And that's what I did, right? I was like, well, I don't want to work with men. I don't want to be in this patriarchy anymore. So I'm going to step outside and create my own space, and a space for women, but also like keeping in mind that like a lot of women, the majority of women don't have the ability to do that. If you're a lawyer or an accountant or doctor, right? Like you're trained to be in this traditionally male dominated space.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily if you're, if you're a lawyer starting out at a big firm, you can't necessarily step outside the patriarchy and like start your own law firm. It's not accessible to everyone. And understanding that, I'm like, you're going to have to be there. We need women in those spaces to change them, but we need women that are better equipped to deal with some of the bullshit that is going on at the workplace, that has historically been going on and will continue to go on, because the status quo benefits men, right? The status quo benefits the patriarchy. So if we don't start changing the way that we behave, it's just going to go on for another generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's one piece of advice you would give then to others who would like to follow in your path?
In terms of like starting your own
Yeah.
business, or
Mhm.
basically for me, the thing that resonated with me or that works for me is that I have, um, first of all, before I started anything, I did a lot of research and talked to a lot of women that are a lot smarter than me. Being open to understanding that like the other women that are successful are not my competition. Like they're my teachers, right? So picking the brains of women in all sorts of different sectors, like from HR to body image experts to burnout experts, all of these people being like, is this something that women should care about? What are the top kind of things that we should talk about in this magazine? So I'm making sure that all of the content is correct and also meaningful to the reader. And it's backed up by experts. So it's not just my opinion, right? It's like making sure that we're tackling the issues that are relevant and really matter to people. So the first thing that I would say is like, don't, if you're going to start your own thing, like for me anyway, it was like doing it in a vacuum is not going to work. You're going to make yourself nuts. And then you'll always be questioning whether you're doing the right thing. Whereas like opening it up, having advisors, having other women, like showing the thing, I show the magazine to my advisory board first. It's like, I need, especially when you're starting out and you're by yourself and I don't have a staff, right? It's like, I need other people to help me to bounce off ideas off of, to tell me if I'm right, to tell me if everything looks good, right? So really looking at other women as teachers and supporters rather than competition.
Mhm. Like a collaborative type of effort.
Absolutely. Like,
Mhm.
you getting stuck in your own head, right? Like it doesn't benefit anything. And the other thing I would say that I did was I always had this kind of idea for DeFi, and it had been like manifesting and nesting in me. And I was like, I decided that I would give myself 1 year with like, shut down like all of my Indeed notifications and like stop taking interviews for kind of more corporate jobs, because I feel like if I was like, well, I'll get a job, that pays the bills or whatever, and then I will do this as like my side hustle. And when I talked to a lot of women entrepreneurs, they were like, if it's your side hustle, you'll never end up doing it, right? And you'll end up spending another 20 years in like some agency or some corporate job that's going to be like soulless, and this thing will never get done. So I set myself, like I was like, from June 1st to June 1st, I'm going to do DeFi. I'm going to do it as my full-time gig with no guarantee that it's going to work, but it makes it feel like, and then in a year I can assess, right?
Mhm.
So that just kind of gave me like a timeline and like this sense of like, I get up and this is what I do for my full-time job. And then we'll reassess in a year. But I mean, if I hadn't done that and I had let it just be kind of this idea in the back of my head, I just don't think I would have ever been able to give it like the time and attention and love that it needed.
Mhm. So what really kept you feeling driven and motivated during, those harder parts of your entrepreneurship then?
Basically like the feedback from women, like I've done a lot of kind of roundtables and talking to people and talking to other experts and putting this magazine together. And then when the first one came out, it wasn't necessarily like, I love looking at the readership numbers and being like my unique visits, because I come from a marketing background, so you're always looking at numbers and how can I monetize this and when can I start this revenue stream. But it was more about like getting these like heartfelt emails that were like, I got an email from a woman that was like, just right after the first issue dropped, that was like, I have a master's in agriculture and I started at this like cannabis startup and I had the most horrible experience. And, I won't get into details because I don't want to out her, but she
Mhm.
basically said, I was so angry. And when I read your magazine, my anger turned to excitement because I feel like we can make meaningful change. Right. So you get that kind of stuff. And it's like, that's the good stuff, because it starts going, even if nothing, like, right. Even if I never make $1, I know, knock on wood, because I hope that it manifests that way. But then you can always say like you made a difference in a positive change in someone's life, right? And that in itself is like, who can say that when you're kind of working, in the kind of corporate world. It's kind of like, it's difficult to make meaningful change. And when you do get that, like someone took it upon themselves to be like, this really mattered to me, that's the coolest part.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. How do you hope to see your business grow then?
Well, yeah, exactly. This is, I'm getting ready for my second issue. So basically, I'm using, you can do it two ways, right? When you're creating your own content. We can do a subscription model, which is when you see like, the New York Times, when you go on and you get, 3 articles and then there's a pop-up and you have to subscribe in order to see the content. That's one way of doing it. I didn't really want to do it that way because first of all, I think for me, I wanted everyone to be able to see it, right? Like if especially when you're a new magazine, if all of a sudden I'm asking you to pay, it's like give the women an ability to kind of see what the magazine's all about. So I'm doing it basically on like a subscription or a subscription, not a subscription basis, sorry, but like a donation basis. So you can the magazine will always be free. It's always going to, because I want it to be as accessible to as many women as possible. And then you can decide whether you want to pay. And hopefully if you have the money and you enjoy the content, that's how I can keep making it, right? So it's like kind of like letting women make their own decision if they want to see DEFY keep going, if they want to keep reading it, and help the next generation, right? Because that's what this is all about. So that the next 20-year-old doesn't waste 20 years doing what we did, you know what I mean? And suffering in
Mhm.
silence. And then moving forward, I'm also going to look at like a membership model. So you're going to it's almost like a book club. So if you join like the DEFY membership, you'll get to read the magazine, obviously for free. And then you'll get access to my experts. It's all about access. So you'll get access to the experts. You'll get to do like meet and greets. You'll get access to the other parts of the community, like a closed community where you can like talk about what's going on in your day, right? We're really trying to build a sense of community, but you also get access to the experts. So if you read an article about self-care, in the magazine, 2 weeks later, if you're a member, you'll get to come on with Dr. Lisa Petty, who wrote the article, and ask questions and have that conversation. So it's really cool that way. And that's all, moving forward. And the other thing is that, we're just always looking for kind of like-minded advertisers that want to sponsor articles. You can buy ad space in the actual magazine. We'll also definitely feature you in socials. You're not just going to get like one ad in the magazine and then we forget about you. We really integrate our sponsors in every touch point that the magazine has with the public. But again, in a way that's like organic and creative and doesn't disrupt the process. Like I would hate to have me be preaching about, not worrying about aging or some of these things and then have like an Olay Regenesis ad like that.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
disconnect all the time, right? Like you're perfect the way you are on page 6. And then you flip the page and it's like, but you better be young. Here's an ad for how to do it. It's like, So looking for other female-led companies and like-minded people that are looking to kind of capture these really brand savvy, educated women in a meaningful way.
Wonderful. Is there a message you'd like to share with other women?
I think that it's just my message is just be unapologetic. Be unapologetic about who you are. Be unapologetic about taking up space. I used to find like I would go into meetings and I would have a brilliant idea, but I would like first of all apologize in case I would be like an apology sandwich. I would be like, I'm sorry if this isn't a good idea, but here's something brilliant, and I'm sorry for taking up your time. Right? Like we tend to do that where it's like we apologize if we have any kind of emotion, and it's like that needs to stop, and that needs to stop with us. Right?
Mhm.
Like, sorry, I'm mad. I'm sorry, I'm sad. I'm sorry, and it's just, let's move forward unapologetically and ask for what we want and need and take up the space that we rightfully do.
Excellent. So what made you sign up with the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I just mean it was a natural fit. I'm like, my magazine is for, business women,
Mhm.
educated, business savvy women. And I think that making meaningful change is really about everyone pulling together, right? And it's the business leaders, it's me as a journalist, it's, your marketers, everybody needs to be pulling together and going in the same direction. And I just saw this as kind of an opportunity to like, if we band together, when we move forward, progress can actually happen. It's when we kind of compete with each other or we don't see each other as allies that things are like, that's just the biggest barrier to progress, in my opinion. So it's like, I'm trying to make a movement instead of just a magazine where it's like I said, we're leaving a legacy for the next 22-year-old that graduates law school and goes into a law firm is equipped, right, to say no, to ask for the right salary, to not let anyone talk about sex around her, or not to get
Mhm.
pulled into any kind of bullying situation, right? Like she needs to be not wasting the amount of time that we did being uncomfortable in the workplace. right? And I think that means for change and movement to happen, everyone needs to be in the same kind of on the same page.
Yes, absolutely. I firmly believe that. We're not crabs in a bucket, right? They say
No,
crabs in a bucket, one tries to come out, jump out,
yeah,
crawl out, and the other
never
one's
look
trying to
around.
drag it down. So there's
Right,
no
right.
competition. It's
And
just
that's just like, and I, it's so funny. I talked to a lot of women who are
yeah.
like, some of the worst people I ever worked with were other women. And it's like, yeah, but if you could see that that's also a byproduct of the patriarchy, right? Like, I always say, if there's like 10 partnerships at a law firm or an accounting firm, and 9 of them are for men, and there's 1 seat for a woman, no wonder we're scratching each other's eyeballs out trying to get it, right? And the thing is that while we're competing with each other and paying attention to that, they're allowed to free to behave in any way they want, right? So I believe that misogyny is all about policing behavior, right? It's the
Mhm.
behavior of the patriarchy. So when we're behaving like that, we're behaving exactly how they expect us to. And like I said, the status quo only benefits them, right? So
Mhm.
it's like realizing that like you're only my competition because this is what this little mini society is telling me is so, and historically has been so, but it doesn't have to be, right? We don't need to be tearing each other down, and that's just a huge barrier to progress.
Yeah, we need to build each other up.
Like, and I know
Yeah.
everyone says that, but it's like, but it's for real. And this is kind of like if it's. I feel like I don't know about you, but I think a lot of women are feeling like that the turn of the tide right now, where it's like we got to strike while the iron's hot, where everybody's like, I think, pretty angry and feeling like they need that validation. And I'm here to say, like, you are like when you're interrupted and it makes you feel small. Here's why. Here's why that's happening
Mhm.
from like a sociological perspective, and here's what you can do about it, right? And that's what this magazine is. It's like, yes, this messed up thing's happening. Yes, you're right to be angry about it, and here's what you can do to stop it from happening. And I think that's really important.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. So what can people reach out to you about? What would you like them to reach
I am
out to you
always
about?
looking for partners of any kind, right? So if you are a content creator and you have a really great idea for a pitch or something that we should talk about in the magazine, or you would like to write about in the magazine, I'm always open. I've been getting pitches from all over North America, really cool stuff. Um, so that's one way. I'm always looking for partners and sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor an article or work with me, I kind of like don't do it like doing a cookie cutter like advertising, like you get a third of a page ad for X amount of money. Like I want to work with my sponsors as actual partners, so that it's a mutually beneficial situation. So if you are looking to connect with my audience, which is just a kick-ass, very segmented audience, we're very targeted, educated, empowered, professional women, and you feel like you want to connect them with your product in a meaningful way, then we're always looking for ways that we can help each other out.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Julie, for being here. It was a great conversation, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.